ages before Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, John Cena, Dave Bautista, and Vin Diesel took over the screen with actions and size, there was Arnold Schwarzenegger taking bad guys with his fists and very accurate shots. And the movie that stands out for me that made it all possible, believe it or not, is
Commando. Let's party.
I will be providing some spoilers for Commando, so if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's amazing. But if you have seen it, stay here and let's discuss. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays John Matrix. What a name! John Matrix has retired from being a special forces crazy cool guy, and now he's in a cabin living with his daughter away from trouble. But it happens that his teammates, his previous special forces guys, are being killed off one by one. An army helicopter flies in to warn John, but John is cautious all the time, and it shows that he's still sharp. Eventually, bad guys find John Matrix, kidnap his daughter, knock him out, and when he wakes up, he's given a mission. He's supposed to do something very, very bad if he wants to see his daughter back. Behind all of this is John's former teammate who never jived with John, and it's what I would call an asshat. John decides to try to rescue his daughter and goes on a spree to find out where she is and how he can rescue her. He eventually enlists the help of a flight attendant, and basically they together go on a fantastic investigation, a shopping scene at a gun store that still has me salivating, even though I'm not really pro gun, and eventually culminating in an amazing showdown full of shots, explosions, knife fights, and eventually it's just crazy cool. Why Commando is the ultimate big guy movie is that it's filled with one-liners, unapologetic action where an action star bigger than life really shows levity to a very dire situation. And it started for me a love for films where I understood I couldn't identify with the action star in front of me, but I could have fun to the nth degree without any heavy consequences. And Commando does just that. It has relentless action, quippy and fantastic one-liners such as "Let off some steam, Bennett." I can't really make an Arnold accent. And villains that are so over the top and ridiculous, but at the same time, very, very compelling. The bad guy has a history with John and he really hates him. And when he's offered a lot of money to make sure that John does the job and kill John, he says, "You know what? I'll do it for free." Because his motivation goes way beyond money. And Arnold Schwarzenegger in this film is just delightful. You have an opening shot of him carrying a huge log on his shoulder as if it was a twig. His relationship with Jenny, his daughter, is ridiculous. You just saw this guy carry, an impossible size of a log, juxtaposed with images of his little daughter smearing some ice cream on his nose and then laughing. It really shows that Arnold understands how to build relationships and show a vulnerable side to a guy that you think is completely invincible. And that invincibility is one of the things I would love to address.
If it's a mission no man can survive, he's the man for the job.
John Matrix does it all, and he very rarely gets injured. He takes a truck that has been disabled, pushes it down a hill to chase the bad guys, and goes through an impossibly non-survivable situation, and yet he makes it out. He has honed skills that are almost supernatural, where he can smell the enemy coming downwind. He places shots precisely, and you can see he's an expert at what he does. But his invincibility, when he jumps down from a plane that's taking off, where he gets injured in ways that would kill a normal human being. It is a character that is completely detached from reality. And nowadays, when we see action stars being more vulnerable, that they can get hurt, they can get really injured and be this close to dying and still make it, having an action star not being that vulnerable is actually very different and refreshing, because even though there is some suspension of disbelief, you're seeing this guy that's larger than life do things that are literally impossible and ridiculous, and that is what makes this movie slightly more enjoyable to me than a very realistic John Wick. I know I take the John Wick comparison quite often. I recently reviewed a film called Nobody that I tried to compare to John Wick and how it's very different from John Wick. To me, the excellence of having the action star doing the action, long takes when you're not confused about what's going on screen, extremely high levels of training in order to get to the level of performing the stunts as an action star, the way Keanu Reeves or Tom Cruise, for example, does it. It was not possible in the 80s and 90s, where those larger stars came out and Stallone and Schwarzenegger were dominating the market for invincible, invulnerable good guys. And I actually think that era of filmmaking is serendipitous and wonderful, and I miss it. And I feel we need more type of films where we don't need to feel that related to the action star to still feel their strife and their difficulty. And Arnie's charisma is really taking over. The one-liners he delivers: I lied, I ate green berets for breakfast, take off some Steve Bennett. I mean, they really play so well, but they can be delivered by a character that is that invincible and larger than life, that can rip off the seat off of a car and jump down onto a moving elevator and make it out. It's beautiful and it is a spectacle. And of course, that couldn't be possible without amazing stunt doubles that went through the danger, the injuries, and everything else to make amazing action stars like Arnie look as good as he did in Commando. But there is something else that Commando did for me that a lot of movies started emulating later, which is the montage.
Now, somewhere, somehow, someone's gonna pay.
Commando instituted the getting ready montage, where you are gearing up for battle, having close-ups of loading guns, putting the vest and the knife and the gun in the holster. And it's amazing, those little details that created not only a style of its own, but also a sound of its own. And you have seen that nowadays to tell a story of how good somebody is at something that they do. I'm going to recall John Wick again, where he goes through the motion of breaking cement with a huge hammer, taking out the case full of golden coins, gearing up with a fantastic suit, loading his weapon. That montage to me was born in Commando. And I'm sure there are movies before that have done it better, but Commando is just so iconic. It's the calm before the storm. It's the build-up before the drop at a rave, and it is so interesting and rewarding. That build-up storytelling is something I really enjoy in Commando. Not only did it do it once, but I feel did it twice. When John Matrix goes into the gun store and starts loading different cool things and finds out that bottom under the till and opens up the specialty stuff where he gets a bazooka out of a gun shop. Really, it's not for sale at the gun store. And if it is, let me know which one. I would love to visit just out of curiosity point. What I'm getting at is the Commando montages are darn amazing.
Leave anything for us? just bodies.
If you have larger-than-life action heroes, you need larger-than-life villains to make him feel like there's an actual struggle and an impeding danger. And I feel Commando has amazing villains, one after another, that really make John Matrix work to get to finding out where his daughter is and eventually rescuing her. There's Sully, who is tiny but conniving, and it's played by a wonderful actor. There is Cook, who is huge, powerful, and an expert fighter. The Grim Beret that challenges John Matrix and fights with him hand to hand. And of course, Vernon Wells, who plays Bennett, who is this sleazy, over-the-top, terribly fashioned, and very menacing villain who hates John Matrix. And you can see they never got along when they were working together in the army, special forces, whatever. And I honestly feel it's one of those performances that really matches the over-the-top action hero that Arnie is. Their final confrontation, when it's decided that they're gonna fight it out with knives, it's just perfect. The bad guy had the hero right there at gunpoint. He could have just pulled the trigger and it was all done. But no, Bennett needs to have satisfaction. He needs to kill John Matrix with his bare hands and a knife and dive it deep into his gut and twist it and see the life of John Matrix just go out on his face. It's just an amazing, electrifying scene with an iconic fight that is slow, methodic. Every punch sounds like somebody is taking a cricket bat and hitting a sack of cement. The iconic punch sound, it's so good. And that fight culminates, of course, in an amazing fashion, a one-liner, and it's satisfying despite it not being filmed in this super realistic fashion. That is what makes it great. It is just riveting to watch because it's so ridiculous. And a lot of modern movies owe a lot to Commando for being able to deliver that kind of action and those kind of lines, and it's still enjoyable and makes sense.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's what Major, you did!
I lied.
Commando is one of those films that I will never get tired of watching over and over. I rewatch it at least twice every year. It's pure enjoyment, it's over the top, it's ridiculously fun. I honestly feel that it was the golden era of the 80s for action flicks where Arnold Schwarzenegger could take over a role and make it his own, and also be so over the top and successful with amazing action that is completely ridiculous but works well, one-liners that I can quote, villains that are so over the top but matching the intensity of the action hero, plot lines that don't need to be complicated, that are simple and also very compelling, and filmmaking styles that define action the way we see it today, with montages and over-the-top action scenes and very, very clever script writing that just pays off. And I can honestly say Commando is one of my top 10 action films still today, despite amazing action franchises like Fast and Furious. I wonder, what is your favorite over-the-top action flick from the 80s? I would love to hear your suggestions, especially because I'm looking to discover gems that I haven't seen before. I'm Jin from Get Me More, and you know where to find me. Thank you for watching.